Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. And I don't have the best camera work today because I was doing everything outside today. I couldn't do it inside, but um, but it was very, very windy and everything, so I wasn't able to do it. So bear with me. It should be okay camera work, um, but it's gonna be fun. It's a new season, and I kind of want to get into that today by this verse. And when I do Bible Nugget 2.0 verse group, I'm going to read it in 4 different translations. So I got the King James, Amplified version, New American Standard Version, and New International Version as I do that. So I'm going to read it and read it again. And we got 8 verses, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. But if you haven't done so, feel free to hit the subscribe button, like and share videos. And if you don't mind, let me know what state and town that you are from. I'd love to know that. So, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8 on the King James side. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up, which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away, a time to rend, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. That was the King James Version. Now I'm going to do the Amplified Version. To every, and this is Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8, to everything there is a season and a time for every matter or purpose under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up, which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away, a time to rend, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Now I'm going to do New American Standard Version. Hi, everyone. Let me know state and town if you don't mind where you guys are from. I would love to know that. And this one, Ecclesiastes, New American Standard Version, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. There is an appointed time for everything, and there's a time for every event under heaven. A time to give birth, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot, which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to throw stones, and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace, and a time to shun embracing. A time to search, and a time to give up as lost. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear apart, and a time to sew together. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace. Now I got NIV. This is the last verse. I'm going to do NIV version. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. There is a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. So it's the new year, new seasons, and a lot of times in new seasons you're going to have change, and it's time for that change too. So I'm going to kind of go over that just the different seasons of life. So I'm going to probably do the King James version on this one. Time to plan time. Let me see. Yeah, actually, no, I'm going to do NIV version on this one. So there's a time for everything, a season for every activity under heaven. So there's a new season. People have new goals, right? It's a new year, and it's time for it, right? It's in January. We just left last year, and it's a time for a season change, and you set your goals. But every season is a little different for everyone. A lot of people could have ended last year in a bad year, hoped for a good year, and this year could be a bad year coming off of a good year. So, is this that this happens in the changing seasons? With change, either they could be good or bad. So, a time to be born and a time to die. So we're here, we're born, right? And we're here for a little while because we're going to die eventually, and we only have a certain amount of time in our life that's before we that we live and before we go to heaven, right? So that's just very important to know that like your time is here is only so long in life. So where are you from? I'm from New Jersey, buddy. And a time to plant and a time to uproot. So sometimes in different seasons we're planting, trying to grow ourselves for that season. Maybe we came off of something bad, and we just need it to be the season that we're just growing and developing our character, renewing of our minds, as Romans 12:2 says, and a time to uproot. So sometimes you just leave things, so you can start over and whatnot. So. This one says a time to kill and a time to heal. I'm gonna say I'm not sure how to answer that. What time to kill and a time to... I would say pretty much the same thing. Like you need, sometimes you need to end a relationship, for example, and then you have that healing time through that. That's how I'm going to answer that one. So like, time to kill is just like, let go of something, right? Just don't let it get you. You move forward to the present moment, prepare for the future, and you heal during that time. So a time to tear down and a time to build. Yeah, so you just tear everything down during certain seasons. You just let go of certain things that can be a hindrance to your present moment, where in your life right now, and you're trying to build yourself back up, build your foundation as with God, yourself, your spirit life. So a time to weep and a time to laugh. So there's seasons that are sad. Maybe somebody passed away. This is a hard season, or maybe you got a bad diagnosis or something, and so you need to mourn, cry, in the circumstances of those lives, and a time to laugh. Sometimes in life is fun. And enjoy the important moments of your life, with people, with others. So a time to mourn and a time to dance. Pretty much what it is said, like you mourn a loss of somebody, or you're going through something hard, and you need to take that time, in that season to do that, and a time to dance. Is you're enjoying the moment, you're enjoying worship with God. Take that time to praise Him and whatnot. A time to dance. I would pray for you. Guy from, I'm not sure how to say your name, but I would pray for you, for wisdom. A time to gather stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to reframe. I'm trying to think of how to... sometimes we need to embrace what is in our life, the good things, and then reframe is just let it be, let it go. Sometimes move forward. So, and a time to search and a time to give up. Sometimes we're searching, soul searching, trying to improve as an individual, as a person. And we need those seasons of searching and really looking into our souls, really growing deeper with God, maybe finding a new way a new perspective of looking at Him, if that makes any sense. And it's, I hate to say it, but sometimes when something, it is time to give up certain things, if it's not working, and you can clearly see that it's time to move on. So yeah, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. I'm going to talk about this one: a time to be silent and a time to speak. So silence is good in certain circumstances. You don't always have to say something. If there was like a argument or something like that, you can be silent in those in that circumstance. But sometimes it is the time to speak if things are getting out of hand, and you really need to talk about it. So I'm gonna go that angle with that verse. And a time to love and a time to hate. Sometimes, like for example, you have a relationship, and you really love the person, but sometimes you have to let that relationship go. And a time for war and a time for peace. So I'll say this way. Sometimes there's wars within the country, and we do need to battle and fight for those wars. But sometimes we need to try to look for peace too. So I hope everything I just said, I try to break it down the best I can. But a great, most important thing, there's times, seasons, and reasons for everything, right? And life looks differently in different seasons. So, and I think that's something that we need to remember, that change happens in life consistently. Like one week could look different than another week, or another month could look different than another month or year. So it's like one long journey that we're growing and learning from the good and the bad. And through the good and the bad, I will, buddy, that we keep growing, keep maturing, and keep having the renewal of our minds. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. Yeah, I would definitely go back and look at that, because it's definitely a new season. Christmas is past, we're in a new year. So I hope everyone has a great new year this year. So if you haven't done so, feel free to subscribe on YouTube, like and share videos. Feel free to follow on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. So everyone have a great rest of the day. Thank you for watching. And next time I come back, I should be doing a Bible study. So and there's a lot of different groups that will be in a playlist now. So check all of them out. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.